Boker Tov, today's daf is daf Kuf Yud Ches in Baba Kama, the last but one daf, as we learned for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and Sun Batzar V'Shivya. Says the Mishnah, the third Mishnah on the page, near the bottom. That's where we left up yesterday. Go to Cleminated. Listen very carefully. This is a complicated case. If somebody have a robber, who a thief, who steals a lamb, let's say, from the flock, he returned it. He returned it. He took it, he stole it, then he returned it. Umei so nignav, and then afterwards the animal died or was stolen again. Once he stole it, he's responsible for it. Chai b'chriyaso, he's responsible to take care of it, and he's responsible to pay for it. Okay. Lo yadu ba'alam. Now that means that he's responsible, presumably, because he's got to let the owner know, I took it. If he says to the owner, I took it and I'm returning it now, okay, right? But if he took it and he just returned it, and without letting the owner know, right? The owner didn't know. He returned it, he put it back in the flock, and the owner didn't know, then he's still responsible for it. That's not considered returning, because if he stole it, it's not considered a proper hashava. Once he stole it, Rashi says, once he stole it, it's in his possession, and he didn't do a proper hashava until you let the guy know that I returned it to you. Listen carefully. Let's say the owner did not know that it was stolen. The owner didn't know it was stolen. And now we have another phrase. He counted. Let's say he says he knows he had 50 sheep. He had 50 lambs in there, 50 sheep. And the owner goes, and every so often he counts it. The owner did not know that the ganav stole one, but he counted it, and he saw they're all there. It was shlema. It's all 50 are there. Then the ganav is potter. In other words, if the owner knew that it was stolen, did not know that it was returned, okay, then the ganav is responsible for it. Even if he returned it, he said, oh, I returned it already. Yeah, but I didn't know that. Okay, now, if he counted it, then it's okay. Now, there's 4 ways to learn pshat in this mission. Very complicated. Let's look at the Gemara. Rav. Rav is the simplest way. Rav says, Ladas, if the owner knew that it was stolen, sarach das, then you have to let him know that it was returned. Ladas, sarach das. He knew it was stolen, you have to let him know that it was returned. If you didn't let him know that it was returned, then it doesn't make any difference. You're still responsible. Shaloladas, if he didn't know that it was stolen, he didn't know it was stolen, minyan potter, then he counted it. The owner, every so often, let's say Mondays and Thursday, he counts his sheep. After laning, he goes and counts the sheep. Counts the sheep. On Tuesday, the ganav stole it, returned it on Wednesday. The owner never knew. And on Thursday, he counted it again. He counted there were 50 on Monday. There were 50 on Thursday. No problem. That's how Rav learns the Mishnah. Ladas, if he knew that it was stolen, then it's not enough just to give it back. I knew it was stolen. I knew it was missing. You didn't tell I found out that it was missing. Then you have to. It's not considered a proper refund, a proper return, unless you let me know. If I didn't know at all, and I counted them Monday and Thursday, same amount, then it's fine. Then the ganef is off the hook. That's how Rav learns. When the end of the Mishnah says, again, Mishnah is like 3 parts. The Mishnah says if you steal it and you return it and you didn't let the guy know, you're still responsible. You're the ganef, you're the thief, you're still responsible. If the owner didn't know anything, and he counted him, then it's okay. That's the third phrase. Then he's potter. Okay, so that's Amara. So again, Amara from the Gemara, Ladas Sarchadas. If the owner knew that it was stolen, you have to let him know that it wasn't. Shalodas, if he didn't know it was stolen, then counting it is enough. That's considered a good hashava because the owner didn't know anything. He's, what's the phrase? He's no worse off. Ignorance is bliss. Yeah, ignorance is bliss. So he didn't know. Okay, potter. When it said, then the Mishnah says he counted them and they're all there. A sefer, it's going on the sefer. What's the sefer? He didn't know. He didn't know that it was stolen, but he counted. It's fine. That's how Rav learned. That's a simple shot in the Mishnah, but that's not how we pass him. Other opinions. Shmuel Amar, bein ladas, bein shaladas, mean potter. If he counted them, doesn't make any difference. He knew he didn't know. He counted them on Monday. There were 50. He counted them on Thursday. In between, it was stolen, returned. Doesn't make any difference. Same amount. Yeah, the ganef is off the hook because counting alone is good enough. That's good enough. He's more makel, right? He says when the end Mishnah says and he counted them and they're all there, that's going on everything. Potter akul, it's going on the whole Mishnah, whether he knew, whether he didn't know. If you count them on Monday, you count them on Thursday, it doesn't make any difference. If it was stolen in between, you knew, you didn't know, it doesn't make any difference. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Ladas means, so according to the Tanakama, that when it says that you counted them, according to Rav, you counted them and they're all there, then you are potter, right? The Ganef is exempt. That's where it's going on the Seifa, where he didn't know. If he knew, you got to let him know. Das, Sarch Das. Shmuel says no. Whether he knew or he didn't know, as long as the guy counted them, they're all there. He has no claim on the robber. Too bad. You're all there. What's your problem? Rabbi Yochanan says, Ladas, minyan poter. If he knew it was stolen, and then he counted them on his own, that's good enough. You knew it was stolen, but you counted them, so they're all there. What's your problem? Shalol Ladas, if he didn't know that they were stolen, afilu minyan nami lotzach. He doesn't even have to count them. If he didn't know, and the guy stole it and returned it, like you say, ignorance is bliss. He didn't know. He didn't know. You don't even have to count them. You don't even need the counting. It's going on the Resha. When he knew that it was stolen, the owner knew that it was stolen, and he counted them. Okay, they're all back now. Whoever took it, the guy used it, he gave him back. If he didn't know it was stolen, and the guy actually returned it, then you don't even need that. So when it says B'Yishleim, it's going on the Resha. When he stole it, he stole somebody, and that's if he didn't count them. If he knew it was stolen and he didn't count them, then the Ganef is still responsible. The Ganef didn't count him. If he counted them, right, then he's potter. But the beginning of the Mishnah, he knew it was stolen, but he hadn't counted it. If he didn't know, you don't even need the counting at all. Again, when it says that's going on the ratio where he knew it was stolen. If he knew it was stolen and then he counted, that's good enough. So Rabbi Yochanan is really the most maker. Yeah.
Son of is benefiting from this thing. In other words, let's say that he steals a lamb.
Yeah.
And he goes to the bank and says, "Now here are my assets, including this bank."
Right.
Then he returns the lamb before the guy knows about it, and so he has benefited from it.
Well, if there's no damage to the lamb, and there was no change, he didn't catch.
Now he can take the loan against the lamb.
Okay, so he could obviously use it for something. Let's say the lamb had some fleece. Okay, then he made a shinui in it, then he acquired it. That's all kind. Here we're talking about where he just took it and returned it. He might have gained something by it. You might say he might have made him look like a rich man or something like that. Yeah, but there's no loss. Then he didn't cause the man, and he didn't cause the owner any loss, and he didn't make any change to the physical lamb. So that's the third opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is really the most makel. He says if you didn't know about it, you don't even have to count it as long as they're all there. You didn't. There's no claim against the account. Rav Chisda, listen to Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda seems the most chidush. But we see this, the halacha is like Rav Chisda. Ladas minyan poter. If he knew about it, he knew that it was stolen, and then he counted it. That's good enough. That's good enough. Shalol ladas. If he didn't know that it was stolen, sarach das. You have to let him know. The Tanakama said if you knew it was stolen, you have to let him know that it was returned, right? But if he counted him, right? But where he didn't know. If you didn't know and he counted him, that's good enough. Shmuel also says, if you count them, it's good enough. Rabbi Yochanan says, if you didn't know, you don't even have to count them. And as long as he returned it, it's good enough. Rav Chisda says, no. If he knew it was stolen, then the counting helps. Then he counted it, then he's potter. He knew it was stolen, but when he went to count it on Thursday, there were still 50 there, so that's good enough. If he didn't know that it was stolen, it's not enough to return it. Not enough to return it. He didn't know it was stolen. Ignorance is not bliss. We'll see why. Shalol das, he has to let him know. It doesn't make any difference if he counted or he didn't count them. If he stole it and the owner did not know that it was stolen, he counted 50 on Monday, he counted 50 on Thursday. He never realized that it was stolen. It's still the Ganef's responsibility if something happens to that lamb. Why? We'll see. If he knew it was stolen and he counted it, that's okay. But if you didn't know that it was stolen, oh good. Amarava, what's Rav Chisda's reason? What kind of reason is that? My time, Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, if you knew it was stolen and then you counted, it's okay. Everything is good now. The Ganef is off the hook. But if he didn't know, if the Ganef took it without the owner's knowledge, he didn't know anything about it, and he returned it without the owner's knowledge, that's not good enough. You have to let him know that it was taken. Why? My time, Rav Chisda. Paul Vinket did not agree, Bryce. So why? Because since he has put the animal effectively in the habit of leaving. In other words, what you've done is you by stealing it, you've got this animal used to living outside. Yeah, like you say, maybe you took him to the bank, you took him around and stuff like that. Now the animal knows what it's like outside. The animals are taught. I heard yesterday in the news about they have wild pigs in Haifa, the big problem. So he says the wild pigs used to cause a lot of damage, but now they're used to, they're really just, rummaging for food. And now they've gotten used to living with people, so they're not as damaging because they know that when the people bring out the trash, that's their lunch, So they got used to it. Now here, the animal got used to being outside. That's a problem for the owner. He wants his animals to know they're stuck in the barn. Once you got used to being outside, not good. So if you took them outside, don't tell me you brought them back. That's good enough. No, you better tell me that you took it outside, so I'll be more careful next time, and I'll protect them and I'll guard them better. That's of course it's a Zikshen, and of course it's a Zikshen and Nicker, but here it's Nicker. You can say, first of all, the animal hasn't been damaged. We're talking about responsibility. A shomer, right? If a shomer has responsibility, you can't say if it's stolen, right? It was taken away. We're talking about the guy Ganef when he steals something, he's responsible for it. At that point, Heshes like Zayla. What do you say? The Hezek Shane or Nicker? What's the Hezek? The Hezek. The land goes. Okay. But this is a case of Grummy, you're causing him a damage. And we're going with the idea that you're causing him, it's Rabban, you're causing him a damage. Says so again, so we have our 4 opinions in the Mishnah. Understand, the second and the third opinions are more Mako. Rav says the first opinion is what? That if you knew it was stolen, if you knew it was stolen, it's not considered a good hashava, a good return, unless he lets him know that it was returned. Okay, if he didn't know that it was stolen and he counted them, that's good enough. If this says the other way, if he didn't know it was stolen, that's worse. Because if I didn't know it was stolen, I'm not going to be that careful next time, guarding them, making sure they don't go out. You got him used to running around. I better guard this animal, make sure he doesn't get out. If I knew it was stolen, okay, and then I counted it. Okay, I know everything is back. I knew it was stolen. But if I didn't, and if I knew it was stolen, I'll be more careful. But if I didn't know that it was stolen and nobody told me, it's not enough just to put it back. Even if I counted it, it's not good enough because I don't know now that I got to be more careful. That's what Rav Chisda says. Did Rav really say this in defense of Rav Chisda? And presumably he was a Talmud of Rav Chisda and he held like him. I saw a man. Reuben saw Shimon stealing one of his animals. The Agba Imra man, he's stealing a sheep from his flock today. But Rambam screamed at him. He says, "Hey, what are you doing over there?" The guy left it. He saw the guy put it down. He ran away. He doesn't know if he returned it or not. And then the animal died or was stolen. My love, got the money. Isn't it? Even though he was counted, according to Rabba in Rav Chisda, if you knew it was stolen and then you counted him, then the Ganef is off the hook. Here it's mashma that he's on the hook. The Ganef is still responsible, even though it was counted. Well, no, the low money. Speaking where he didn't count it. Again, brothers of Chisda say that if you knew it was stolen and then you counted it, then the Ganef is off the hook. But if you didn't know that it was stolen, you're never off the hook, right? You're never off the hook. So here you wanted to say, if you knew it was stolen and you counted it, if you knew it was stolen and you counted it, you're still responsible. No, it's where you didn't count it. So that's not a kasha on Rav Chisda. What about Rav? Well, Rav was the simple explanation. The way we learned the Mishnah, if you didn't have the Gemara, what would you say? The Mishnah says, if you stole something and you put it back, it's not good enough. Not good enough. You got to let him know. If you didn't know, like ignorance is bliss, right? If you didn't know. Did Rav really say that? Let's say a Ganef stole it and he returned it to the flock out in the desert where maybe the owner didn't know that it was returned. The owner didn't know that it was returned. Yotzer, you're Yotzei. Why? Why would you be Yotzei if you didn't know it was returned? Again, Rav learns a simple pshat in the Mishnah. If you knew it was stolen, you knew it was stolen. And he returned it when your shepherds were out in the desert with the animals. So you didn't know that it was returned. And you're Yotzei, according to Rav, you're not Yotzei unless you let him know that you returned it. Amrav Chanan Barabba, Moda Rav, Berkusa, Rav's Moda, this was a spotted animal. He knew it was stolen. And even though it was put out in the midbar, you could recognize it even without a count because you knew that the animal had like a simon on it. Let's say that our mission is really machlokas tanam. If you steal a sheep or a lamb from the flock, or the selim and a kisser, you stole somebody's coin from their money from their change purse, right? Which was you got to return it back to the place you took it. That's good enough. Just return it back. That's good enough. Rakiva says you have to let him know that you're returning it. Right. Savrua, we're assuming now the Kul Yam Isla Yitzchak. Yitzchak has a famous memra, you haven't but see it throughout. The Amar of Yitzchak, in those days, the money was all coins, not like today when it's plastic or paper. There's still a little paper left. It's mostly plastic, right? But there's coins, right? In those days, it was all coins. And a person would always check his coins, check his pockets, check how much money he had check his purse to see what it was. So Rabbi Yitzchak holds that a person always knows how much he's got. He's always counting it before or after, several times a day, right? My lab, Beselo Das, aren't we assuming over here where the man stole a coin and the owner knew it? Ubeplukta to Rav Shmuel. This is the machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says what? That if you returned it and you counted, if he returned it and it counted, that's good enough. Shmuel says makes no difference, right? Shmuel says it makes no difference. In any case, whether you knew or not, whether you knew or not, the money was returned, that's good enough. And that's the machlokas over here between what Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Shmuel says, as long as you returned it, it's good enough. Shmuel says, we don't care if you knew about it, if you didn't know about it, it's good enough. Whereas Rabbi Kiva says, Sarach das ba'alam, that goes like Rav, that if he knew about it, you have to return it. So we're assuming over here where he knew about it. Why did he know about it? Because he knows when the money's missing. If you stole a coin out of his pocket, the man always feels it. He knows it's missing, right? And then when you returned it, he knew that it was returned. According to Rav, that's still not good enough. He knew it was stolen. You got to let him know. That would be like Rabbi Kiva's opinion, right? Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel preceded obviously Rav and Shmuel. So this machlokas Rav and Shmuel is really dependent on the machlokas Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel, right? That he knew that it was stolen. According to Rav, you still have to let him know. That would be like Rabbi Kiva. According to Shmuel, that would be like Rabbi Shmuel. You don't have to let him know. So Gemara says low. But flesh shalol ladas. The machlokas over here is not. Yes, in other words, there's a machlokas by selim and a kiss. Everybody could agree on that. Machlokas is by when he stole a sheep, a lamb from the flock, and he didn't know. The owner did not know. See the change. He knows it's missing. He feels his purse all the time. But here, where he didn't know it was stolen, well, plucked at Rav Chisda Rabbi Yochanan. Maybe the machlokas is. We don't know for sure. In other words, we have different opinions. Maybe the machlokas is Rav Chisda and Rabbi Yochanan. What's the machlokas Rav Chisda and Rabbi Yochanan? In other words, that where he didn't know that it was stolen. Right? If he didn't know it was stolen, you have to let him know. Rabbi Akiva would be like Rav Chisda. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, we don't care whether you knew or you didn't know if it was stolen. As long as you put it back, that's good enough. We don't care. And then he counted it afterwards. Rashi says, Rav Shmuel, where's the Rashi? Rashi is wherever Akiva said, no, Rashi is further above. Let's see, Rashi. Rashi is right even where we on the Gemara playing Rav Chisda Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shmuel dam lamakom shugana v'achzer Rabbi Yochanan dam shelo ladas afilu minyan l'tzara. Right? He says you don't even just have to return it. There was no minyan over here. The animal was stolen. The owner did not know. And Rabbi Shmuel says just put it back. That's good enough. Put it back. You don't even have to count. That's like Rabbi Yochanan shita. As long as you put it back. If he didn't know about it, just put it back, and that's the end of it. Ignorance is bliss. According to Rav Chisda, no, not knowing about it is worse. That would be like Rabbi Kiva. If you didn't know, you have to let him know. That's the problem. You have to let him know that it was returned. Rabbi Zvid, Amar Rabbi Zvid. Rabbi Zvid says, Mishmei to Rav, in the name of Rav, he says different. Shomer shaganav mishus balim kol amalo pligi. If a shomer stole something from his owner, he stole from where the owner didn't know, everybody agrees to Rav Chisda that you have to let him know you stole it and put it back because you are really a ganav, right? Just with the sphere of Rav Chisda. Everybody holds like Rav Chisda. Get a farish time because you're letting the animal get used to running around. And here the ganav stole from the owner. Right? Everybody else like Rav Chisda and farish time. You're letting the animal get used to running around, to being out in the field.
If he's a shomer, he's not where it's supposed to be.
He's not. Yeah, this is where he didn't steal it from his charge. He stole it from the balabayas. That's what we're saying. As Vic said, what's the machlokas here? He stole it from his own charge. He was in charge, let's say, of 10 animals, and he took one for himself, and he told him that it was stolen. Right? Now he returned it back. Right? Rabbi Kiva Savna is different machlokas. Everybody holds like Rav Chisda. Rashi says this feel like Rav Chisda. First time over here where the ganav stole from his own rishus. And what's the question? And now he says, okay, I'll just put it back. He stole it with the intention of telling his owner that it was stolen. He himself stole it. The question is, if he puts it back among his own 10 that he is in charge of, what's the rule? As soon as you stole it, you're finished with your shmir. The owner, if he had known about it, would not trust you anymore. You're not a shomer anymore in this, and you're a ganav. You have to let the owner know that you're returning it. Rabbi Shmuel said, no, you don't have to let him know. You just put it back. I stole it and I put it back. It's like I was in charge of animals. I stole it and I put it right back. The owner's ignorance is bliss. He doesn't know anything, and you're allowed to. In other words, this machlokas, again, putting it back, we could say it's like Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Chisda, but according to Rav Zid, everybody holds a Rav Chisda generally when it was stolen. But over here, it was the shomer who took it for himself. And that's the question. But over here, it's when the shomer himself took it. That's the question. So since he stole it, his shmira is finished, and now so you have to let him know. Since you stole it without the owner knowing, it was in your charge. The owner, you have to let him know. That's like Rav Chisda, right? Rav Chisda. Whereas Rabbi Shmuel suffers, no, he's still a shomer. I hold the Rav Chisda in general when I stole something and the owner didn't know, but I didn't really steal it. I stole it from my own charge and I put it right back. Lema minyan poter tonight. Now, all the shitas in the Mishnah say that one way or another, by counting it, if the owner counted it, that's good enough. Rav said if he didn't know that it was stolen, but he counted them, you're poter. Shmuel says if the owner counted them and they're all there, not to worry if he knew he didn't know. Rabbi Yochanan says only if you knew it was stolen does minyan poter. If you didn't know it was stolen, you don't even need a minyan. And even Rav Chisda says when does a minyan happen? When he knew it was stolen. When he knew it was stolen and he counted it, that's good enough. If you didn't know it was stolen, you have to let him know because otherwise you won't guard it so well. But everybody says that counting in one way or another poters up the ganef, exempts the ganef from responsibility. So now the Gemara says, maybe that itself is a machlokas tanam b'tanya. I go to Chavero, I steal $1 from you, and then then one time I was buying an item for you for it was $19. I gave you a 20. You know, I put the 20. You didn't even know. I gave it back to you. You didn't know. Tani Chadawan Bryce says Yotza. I didn't tell you I'm giving you back the $1. I'm giving you the $19 that I owe you for the item plus $1 that I stole. No, I wanted to do tshuva, but I was embarrassed. So I gave you an extra $1 in the purchase. One says you Yotza, but Tanya Yotza. Sabro, we assume the Koyam is sort of everybody holds a Yitzchak to Amr Anamas and the Mashbish Bekis of Kol Shah. Again, when the money was in coins, people knew how many coins they had all the time. So he knew. So therefore, when you stole the $1 from him, he knew that it was missing. And when you returned it, he knew he had an extra $1, right? My love. Okay, so what's the machlokas? The mandamar yotza savar minyan poter. Okay, since he counts it anyway, that patches me up. Therefore, I'm yotze my responsibility. I've returned the item. I've returned the $1. A silver $1, of course. Manda amar lo yotza. The one who says you're not yotze savar minyan and poter. Minyan does not discounting doesn't count. The owner knows that it was missing. The owner knows that he got it back. But counting alone doesn't patch. You have to let him know. Maybe that's machlokas here. No. If you hold like Rav Yitzchak, everybody gives me poter, like we saw in our Mishnah, that everybody holds to one degree or another minyan paters. According to the Tanakama, minyan paters where he didn't know. According to Rav Chisda, minyan paters when he did know, right? According to the other one, certainly minyan's paters. Everybody says minyan paters. Ella, but Rav Yitzchak, maybe the machlokas is do you hold the Rav Yitzchak? Mara one says, yeah, a person always counts his money, so he knows what's missing, he knows what's got back. And Mara less like Rav Yitzchak. One says he doesn't know. So if you took $1 from him, he doesn't know that it was missing. And you gave him an extra $1 when you bought some, so he doesn't know you returned it. That's not good enough.
All these crimes, like land and
yeah,
they're both crimes without anybody getting hurt. Okay, so in other words,
in the long run. However, the pasuk says Veishav is exel. You have to return it, and it's not a proper hashava. And as we saw with the lamb, there is a loss to the person by not knowing that it was stolen from him because he's not going to be there careful next time. Let's say, I'll give an example. Let's say you're going around, you have your house, you have all your belongings. Somebody came into your house and stole a piece of silver. A real ganef came in, and you found out about it later on. They came in, and then the silver was returned. You would be more careful now. Now you put in an alarm system, you put in bars on the windows because now you know that people can break into your house. So there's a loss there in this degree. You understand? It's not that there's nobody's harm. You have been harmed. If I pickpocketed your wallet and I took $1 out and the next day I put it back and then I told you about it, well, how would you feel? You wouldn't feel the same way towards me or towards your wallet, or you guard your wallet better. No, there's no damage there, but there is you've hurt the guy. You haven't returned him. You haven't returned it properly. You have to return it properly because you have to let him know. If I didn't know about it, I found it later on, people could just come in and take stuff out of my house without me knowing about it. I need to know about it. So you have harmed him in that way. You're right. There's no fuss. Just like you said, it's hezek shein or nicker, right? It's hezek shein or nicker, but you've harmed him, and therefore you haven't done a proper return. So he says that could be maybe the machlokas is, do you hold the Rav Yitzchak or not? Everybody says if you count it, counting is a good. That could pater. Machlokas is, do you hold the Rav Yitzchak? Mars the Rav Yitzchak, Malas Rav Yitzchak. If you hold the Rav Yitzchak, the guy doesn't know that it was taken from. That guy doesn't know it was returned. And if you go like Rav Chisda, everybody you have to let him know. B-boy saying the Kuyam is everybody holds Rav Yitzchak Lakasha. Had the money for Rav Yitzchak. In one case, he counted out and put it in his purse, and he's always counting his purse, as we say, according to Yitzchak. But the money, one time he put it in his hand and he just threw it into the purse without counting it, so that you could tell in a certain case, you could tell he didn't count that. But normally would hold Rav Yitzchak. And therefore, that's the difference over here. It's not that minyan doesn't pater. In this case, he didn't count because he just stuck it in his hand and he threw it into the big pot. He buys immediately the money, but in both cases, he put it into the purse. In one case, he had other money in the purse before, so he didn't count it exact. If he has nothing else in his purse and you put some money in there, so you know exactly, he knows how much is in there. In the one case where you're not Yosef because he didn't know that, in other words, if he would count it, that's good enough. You could say minyan counts. Rav Yitzchak, you hold the Rav Yitzchak and a person counts what's in his wallet, and you also hold that minyan does help if he counted it out. But over here, he couldn't count out because he had other money in the purse at the same time, and he didn't know how much was there. The money Gazlan from the Kisei, the Nixel, keep this later Yitzchak minyan poter. Rash says, he didn't know how much was in there, so it depends on the exact circumstances. But the idea at the end of the day is that we hold like Rav Chisda, that if he knew it was stolen, and then he counted and he saw it's all there, so he knew it was stolen, so he'll be guarding himself next time. And if he counted and all 50 animals are there, that's good enough. That's a good enough hashava in terms of the Goslin. That's good enough. But if he didn't know that it was stolen, then you have to let him know that it was stolen. Not good enough to return it. Rashi said it in an Aleph. Last line on Aman Aleph. If you didn't let him know that it was stolen, he didn't know, then the ganef is responsible whether he counted or didn't count it. When's that? When he didn't know. He didn't know anything about it. If he knew about it and then he returned it, that's good enough. But if he didn't know that it was stolen, you got to let him know. Otherwise, the ganef is not off the hook. You don't buy items from shepherds. Now, what items don't you buy? You don't buy tzemer. Why? Shepherds are usually hired hands, right? So you're afraid if you buy wool from them, you see a guy who's a shepherd for some big farm or plantation, and he's selling wool, challah and milk, and diem and kids, small goats. You don't buy from them because probably they stole it from their owner. So it could be stolen goods. And from people who guard the fruit trees, you don't buy from them eitzim or pairs. You don't buy from them wood or fruits because it could be that they stole it. But you could buy from women, klei tzemer. Women normally made, they embroidered wool, or they made woolen items, clothing. You can buy from the klei tzemer, beyehudo, klei pishtan, and flax, begalil, because it was normal for them to take their husband's stuff, and they did it with the knowledge of their husband. That was something they normally did. That's not they do it with the understanding of their husband. So it's normal for them to sell their wares out, ba'agolim b'sharon, and calves in the Sharon. Rashi's preferred expression, Sharon, is like we know it's an area, in the plains of near Tel Aviv or Netanya, whatever. So you're allowed to buy these things from the women because they're doing it. They're not stealing it from the husband. Anybody who sells you anything and they say, listen, hide it, don't show it, I'll send it to you in the back of the store, you come to the next store, hide it, don't show it to anybody, then it's also because obviously they're stealing. We could always buy eggs and chickens from any place because apparently that's not considered an item that's automatically stolen, even though it's easily stolen, but presumably, it's very easy for people to have their own, things like that, and therefore you could assume that you can buy from anybody. You don't buy from shepherds, below Ezim, not goats, below Gedim, small goats, below Gizim, you don't buy fleece, below Klushin, so some are pieces of wool, pieces of that have been of fleece. Avaloka man, you can buy from them tfurim. If they've been sewn, in other words, they've been garments, you could buy from them because that nation ain't shalahem, because those garments are their own. They're not. That's not something that they stole out in the field from the owner. Rashi says, even if they did steal the material, the wool or the flax or whatever it was, they were coming with the shinoi, and he owns it now. So even if they did steal the original item, it's okay. Nation shalem. Look, man, you can buy from them chalav v'gvina b'midbar. Out in the desert, you can buy from them milk and the cheese, because even if they're working for the owner, they don't usually. It's, in those days especially, they didn't have refrigeration, so they weren't expected to bring that back into the city. Below B'yishuv, not in the city, in the dwelling area, in the areas of the dwelling, you don't buy from them milk or cheese because they could have stolen it from the owners. Below Kamehan, Dalad. So listen carefully now. You can buy from them 4 or 5 sheep, or Dalad Gizon, or 4 or 5 sets of fleece, let's say. Why? Because it's too obvious. They wouldn't steal so much. 1 or 2, they could say, oh, somebody stole it, a wolf ate it or something. But if you're going to buy 4 from 5, that's very obvious. It's very obvious it will be stolen, and they can't escape that. So if you bought 4 or 5, obviously it's their own. Avalo shteit, some below shteit, not 2. Gemara is going to ask, what do you mean? What about 3? Right, we'll get to that in a minute. Rabbi Yehuda says, basis, if they're domesticated animals, lo command, because then the owner knows them. In other words, if they're domesticated, the owner knows about them. He knows how many he's got. So if something's missing, he'll know. Midbarios, if they're wild ones that the shepherds keep out in the field, ain't looking, you don't buy from them because the owner would not know the amount, and you could steal from them. We'll see in a few minutes. Is Rabbi Yehuda Mekel or Machmer? Okay, Kol here's the general principle. Kol Roa Mocher. If the shepherd sells Ubalabayis Margish, anything that he sells, and the owner would know if it's missing, then lo command, because then he can't see. It's not easy for the shepherd to steal it. If anything that the shepherd sells you and the owner would know about it, then you could buy from them because it's not stolen. Ein margish man, if the owner would not know about it, he wouldn't feel it, so to speak, and you can't buy it. Ein lo command because you're afraid it's stolen. Amar, look me on dalvei. You say you buy some dalvei. He's an understand hashti shlomar arba. If you could buy 4, something in chamish boy. If you could buy 4 because that's too obvious, you can't sell. Certainly you could have 5. Amar chista arba mitoch chamisha. If all he had was 5 and he sold 4 out of it, that's very obvious. That's what he means. He could have some say Amar chista arba me'eder cut chamish me'eder gadol. What he means is 4 from a small flock, 5 from a bigger flock. 4 or 5 is okay. So Amr dalvei tzon dalvei gives you can buy 4 or 5 dalvei ain avol shalosh lo, but not 3. 4 or 5 would be obvious missing, but 3 may not be so obvious. Don't buy from them; they might be stolen. Aim is safe. Then safe avol shteit tzon. You can't buy 2. Hashalosh, but you could buy 3. So lokash of a brayas of if they're healthy ones, right? Zaftik animals, the owner would know about it if it's 3, so you can even buy 3. But if they're weak ones, the owner wouldn't be so makbid about it. He wouldn't know that much. And Chashuvaslo, he doesn't count them. And he's not looking at them so much. Then you cannot buy even 3. So the 4 or 5 excludes 3 if they're weak ones, and the 2 you could buy 2 excludes 3 if they're healthy ones. Healthy ones you cannot buy 3, only 1 or 2. Rabbi Yehuda says, if they're domesticated ones, then you could buy from them because the owner would know. If they're wild ones, you can't buy from them. Rabbi Yehuda Reisha Koy L'Chomer. Is Rabbi going on the Reisha? Odama Sefer Koy. Is he going on the Sefer L'Kula? Is he being stringent or is he being lenient? And now he explains. Reisha Koy is going on the Reisha L'Chomer. The Tanakhama said, look, you could buy 4 or 5 because that's obvious. It wouldn't be stolen. So Hanimili buys, maybe that's only domesticated ones. But Rabbi Yehuda is saying if they're wild ones, you can't even buy 4 or 5. Oh, Dilma Sefer, of course, you're going in the Sefer, the Kula. The Amar, Tanakama said, Avalo State, some below State, you can't buy 2 because that might be stolen. Hanimili Midbaris, maybe that's only wild ones. Avalo Baisos, Shtaim Namilkim, but if they are domesticated ones, and the owner would know, you could even buy 2. So which way is it? Tashma, the time of Yudomer, we have a Brisa where Yudah is more favorite. She says, Baisos, Lokaman Bais, you can buy the domesticated ones because the owner would know if they're missing. Ain't Lokaman, but you don't buy the wild ones. And any place, wherever you are, Lokaman Abba Chamishat So. In other words, Chomakom meaning under any circumstance, you could always buy 4 or 5, because that would be obvious and the shepherd couldn't get away with it. Mida Omar, the Chomakom, you can buy 4 or 5 in any place. In other words, says you could always buy 4 or 5. It's not like the first way you say, is he going on the Reish on the Chumrah that the Tanakama said you could buy 4 or 5, and Rabbi Yehuda's come along to say that's only if they are domesticated ones, but not undomesticated ones. No, here he says you could always buy 4 or 5. So 4 or 5 you could always buy. So therefore, when he makes the difference between domesticated and undomesticated, he's going on the 2. Shma mina seifa koi. Shma mina. He's going on the seifa. The seifa that said you can't buy 2. That's only what if they are undomesticated. But if they are domesticated, then you could even buy 2. That's where he's going. But domesticated, you could buy 2. So reviewed as being makel, not being machmer. Below mishamer pavers, and you can't buy items from guards, people who are hired to guard fruit trees. Can't buy from them. Why can't you buy from them? Because you're concerned that maybe they stole the fruits or stole the wood. Rav zaven shabishta me'arisa. Rav would buy a bundle of twigs from a sharecropper. Now, a sharecropper is different than a hired worker. A hired worker gets a paycheck. He gets paid by the hour, paid by the day, and that's it. He doesn't own any fruits or any wood. Whereas the sharecropper gets, let's say, a third, usually it's a third. He gets a third of everything: the fruits, the trees, the wood, the wine, whatever they have there. He gets a third. Only a buy about tanan blom shamperos, peros. He says you're not allowed to buy. So Abaye said to Rav, how can you buy stuff from the sharecropper? We said you're not allowed to, but he's also guarding. You're not allowed to buy from guards. You're not allowed to buy wood and fruits. That's only by a shomer who's, like we say, hired by the day, gets a paycheck. He doesn't own anything in the land. The less like begufa the aramida, he doesn't own anything in the land. But a oris, a sharecropper who owns something of the field, right? Owns something in the field. Ema bin nafshe, because he's selling his own. He's entitled to a third. So he's selling his own wood and fruits, and therefore I could buy from him. Shomer Paris, Lokaman, Shane Yoshvin. Even though Shomer Paris, we said you can't buy from them, but if it's very obvious that they're doing it publicly, they wouldn't be stealing, they're not doing it in an underhanded way, then you could. Shomer Paris, Lokaman, Shane Yoshvin, when they're sitting a mochrin and they're selling Bahasalaf name, the baskets of fruits are in front of them, but Tortin name, there's a scale in front of them as they're doing it publicly. They're selling it like openly. They got to stand there, and there's baskets and there's scales. But if any of them say, Hatme, hide this, they say, can you put the stuff away? Don't show it to anybody. Then it's also. Lokan man, you buy from them at the opening of the garden, or it's at the door of the garden, because then it's obvious, it's public. But not in the back. It's, come to the back of the store. I have some stuff I got to show you. That's pretty obvious he's stealing. Itmar. Gazlan the Amasai Mutter Liknos. Let's say the guy's a well-known Gazlan. He's stolen stuff in the past when he has a Gazlan. But now he's turned the corner, he's done tshuva, and now he's got a legitimate business. At what point can you buy from him? What point can you assume that the stuff you're buying is not stolen goods? Me'amasai Mutter Liknos. Rav Amar Achte Rove Mishlo. You got to make sure that most of the stuff is legitimate, is clean. And I said most of his wares are clean. You have to know that's right. You go bust a robe, and once robe is most. Yeah. Well, once there's something you can say about it's not because of the bottle, but once most of it's clean, then you can buy them. You have to assume the best in people. That even if Talina Varminan, this is something that he's selling you his own. Or like Rav Yehuda instructed Ada, who was an attendant for the Chachamim, the Shamas, even if you know that some of it is legitimately his, right? Then you're allowed to. It's okay. It's okay to buy from him because you assume he's selling you the good stuff. He's done tshuva. Mama, in other words, you don't know that it's stolen, right? You just know that this guy has a bad reputation. If you know it's stolen, it's not good. You can't do that, right? But if he's gone straight now, even if some of the stuff is his, you can't. Imagine how hard it is to count. You're going to know if it's rove or miyah. Mamon masor. What about the money of an informer, person who tells the goyim or tells the bandits about other people's money, and you're allowed to kill such a man? You're allowed to destroy his money. In other words, the money of a person like that. You can't destroy it physically. His mammon shouldn't be more stringent than his own body. And Rashi brings down the Gemara Chama Gufa, the Kaimelam Perchain Devarazar, the Mutlavid Gufa Biyadam. You're allowed to throw a man like that into the pit. Tani Amina of the Avarazar, the Apikorsam Masoras, Marsal bor b'lamalin. You're allowed to kill them. So maybe not directly, but you're putting them in a situation where their lives will be at risk. So certainly you could destroy his money. Mandam ra'asalab though. The one who says you're not allowed to destroy the money, why are you destroying the money? Maybe his kids are okay. Except Yachan Russia, but Tzaddik Yilbush. The Russia will prepare it and the Tzaddik will put it on, will wear it. Meaning, many times the father could be a Russia and the son could be a Tzaddik, right? The sons aren't always like the parents, right? It works both ways. Some father's a bad guy and his kids are tzaddikim. So you can't destroy his money. Rav Chisda had a share proper. Rashi has two explanations. One is that he was very careful. He didn't let him, he wasn't mavater even a little bit. Some say, another pshat in Rashi is that he took too much. He was only supposed to get a third, and he would weigh out and keep for himself half. So he was cheating. So, okay, he fired him. That's what you do when you have a bad worker, right? Even a sharecropper, he fired him. Karnav Sheh and Rav Chisda called out about himself, quoted the pasuk, the assets of the sinner, right? The wealth of the sinner will be waiting for the tzaddik. He'll be looking for it. He'll get it. It's awaiting him. The pasuk says, "Kimat tikvas chanav." What is the hope of the flatterer, the hypocrite? Ki yifsa, when by his gain, by what he steals. Ki yishal eloka nafshu, because God will take away his soul. What does that mean? What's the point of a ganef? What are you gaining if Hashem's going to kill you anyway? One says, what does that mean? The soul of the person who was stolen from. In other words, the ganef kills the person by stealing his money. You're hurting his nefesh. You're killing him. No, that when a gazlan steals, he's hurting himself. It says, so this is the way of all those who steal, who gain against the law. As nefesh balabug, he takes the soul away of the owner of the goods. He's stealing him. So you see that the person who the nigzal is the one who loses his soul by losing all his assets. Mandar menafsh shel gazlan, the one who says no, he's going after chsib. I'll take sol dal kidalhu. Don't steal from the per person. He has very little anyway. Ani bishar. Don't crush the ani, the poor, the poverty-stricken person in the gate. Hashem will fight their battle. The koves koveim nefesh, and he will steal back from those who steal from them down to the soul. Meaning Hashem's going to hurt the gazlan. So what about the pasuk that says you're stealing the soul of the owner of the goods, the nigzal? My ba'alabal the hashta. The owner who's now, when he stole it, it's his. When he stole it, becomes the gazlan. Shini Maisa, Yish, Shini Rishus, whatever. The one who says that it's the nefesh of the nigzal. What about the pasuk says v'kavas kaveim? Hashem will steal from those who steal from them nefesh. It says ma'atam kamer. Ma'atam comes. Why will Hashem kill them? Mishum the kavei nefesh, because they have killed the nigzal. Because of that, Hashem will kill them. If you stole anything from a person, even a shava pruta, like it's less than that, it's not considered stealing. If you stole anything from them, it's like you've taken a soul away. Mimenu. You're taking a soul away from the person. Shinemar, this is the way of anybody who steals, who gains illegally. As nefesh balaviga takes away his soul. So you see, just taking his money is like taking away his soul. Obviously, not literally killing him, but it's like you're taking his Omer. Another pasuk says, he will eat your harvest and your bread. Your boys and girls, like you're killing your children. Omer, a difference between a gazlan and a chamas. A chamas is like a person who steals, but he pays you for it. He forcibly buys it from you. It's also stealing. That they spilled blood, right? That just they stole your goods. It's like they spilled your blood. They spilled innocent blood, the arts in their land. But Omer, another pasuk, third pasuk. El Shol El Beis Adamin, the house of the blood. Al Shemus is Gevonim, because Shol killed the Gevonim. Now, what do we need all these psukim for? You had one pasuk. The first pasuk says a gazlan who steals, it's like he takes the waste and a shama of the nigzal. Maiva Omer. What does it mean? Maybe, okay, he takes away the nefesh of the soul of the nigzal, of a nefesh banav of nosef lo, but he doesn't take away the soul of his children. Tashma, basar banav ubenosa. The second pasuk tells us he takes away even the soul of his children. That's only if you didn't pay for it. If you forcibly bought it, you paid for it, but you took it at force. Maybe then it does count. Tashma, mechamas bnei Yehuda asher shafchu dam naki. Mechamas is also like spilling innocent blood. That's where you do it by him. Directly, you literally stole it from the guy, and therefore you're taking his neshama away and that of his kids. And even if you paid for it, you're directly doing it. Avol gromalo. But if it was indirect, not. Now, how do I know if I did it indirectly? Tashma el shol b'beis adamim sholen for the house of blood al shahimis legarim. Because Shaul killed the Gavonim. Now, what do you mean? Where do you find that Shaul killed the Gavonim? He didn't really kill them. He killed Nov, the city of the Kohanim, all the Kohanim there. They gave water and food to the Gavonim, who were the workers, the laborers. When they built the base of Mikdash, they brought the wood and stuff like that. They cut down the wood. In other words, this tells you that even if you didn't kill them directly, you killed them indirectly. You killed the people who were giving them food and drink. Because of that, it's as if you killed them directly. All right, the Mishnah goes on. You could buy from women, but we'll stop here. We'll leave this for tomorrow. Mr. Hashem, Bezrat Hashem will make a siyum tomorrow on Baba Kama. Don't want to miss that.
This lawyer who was a gambler, he lost $50,000. Okay, so
Is that a lawyer?
Yes, theoretical.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's something I watched on TV.
Okay.
He stole from his client $50,000 and
Right.
paid his debts. Okay?
Right.
The client never knew that he
returned the money.
He returned it right away.
Right.
So what would you do?
Well, so if he how did he steal it? If he stole it, we go. No, I understand. So if according to Rav Chisda, he's not considered returning unless it's not a proper returning unless he let him know. In other words, he's damaged him in some way. You might say, yeah, but the money is there, like you all said. There's Hezek Shein and Nikri. He's returned the money. There's no financial loss, but he's caused him an injury. He hasn't returned. He hasn't done his job. Because now he'll be more careful next time. In other words,
he was disbarred.
He's prevent. Okay, so then he got punished for that. But I'm saying he hasn't fulfilled the pasuk Eishav Zela. That's the point. He hasn't returned the item properly. He hasn't fulfilled the pasuk. He's still done a miss. Now, because of that, even though he returned the money, even the money's there and he counted and it's all there, but the guy didn't know that it was us. You'll be more careful next time if you have a lawyer like that. Give him. Oh, just give me the power of attorney. I'll handle it. Right? You don't want to do that. That's how did the lawyer steal it? Because he had access to the money. So next time you'll know. So yes, you haven't stolen from him any money. He hasn't returned any money. He's returned the money, but you've hurt him because now he's not going to be that careful. That's the point of Rav Chisda.